The sun shone through the tall windows of classroom 302 in the Science Building of North American University. Professor Alan Wright stood at the front, his gray beard neatly trimmed and his blue eyes bright with excitement. He loved teaching History, especially the part about old Earth. Today was his favorite lecture of the semester. "And so," he said, moving his hand through the air to control the large holographic display, "approximately 300 years ago, the asteroid designated KB 2734 struck Earth in what was once called the Pacific Ocean. The image above him showed a blue and green planet, much like their own new Terra, but with different land shapes. Then a bright flash appeared, followed by waves of fire spreading across the surface. The impact was, as you can imagine, catastrophic." Professor Wright continued. "Dust clouds blocked the sun. Massive tsunamis destroyed coastal cities. Those who survived the initial impact faced years of what they called nuclear winter." The 30 students watched the simulation with wide eyes. Many had seen it before in basic education, but the university-level detail was much more graphic. A few looked away. Records indicate that 17,423 humans managed to escape on 12 generation ships before the planet became completely uninhabitable. "Those brave souls were your ancestors," Wright said with a proud smile. 6 of those ships eventually reached New Terra after nearly 70 years of space travel. The other 6 ships headed to different star systems and we lost contact with them long ago. Professor Wright paused the hologram on an image of massive ships leaving a dying Earth. "This is why our study of old Earth is so important. We are all that remains of humanity. We carry the legacy of an entire planet." The classroom was quiet. Students were typing notes or recording the lecture. This was standard information they had all learned since childhood. A hand went up in the third row. "Yes, Miss Collins?" Professor Wright nodded to a young woman with curly brown hair and serious eyes. Samantha Collins lowered her hand. She was usually quiet in class, but something about today's lecture bothered her. "Professor, I have a question about the timeline," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "Of course. If Earth was completely destroyed and only 17,000 colonists escaped... done, where am I from? My family history goes back 12 generations on this continent. That's much longer than 300 years." The room fell silent. Not the respectful silence of students paying attention, but the heavy silence of unexpected confusion. Professor Wright stood very still. His mouth opened slightly, then closed. For several seconds he said nothing at all. Another student, Jack Bennett, spoke up. "Maybe your family records are wrong? My grandmother always said our family histories were mostly made up to sound impressive." "No, they're not wrong," Samantha replied. "We have physical photographs and documents from over 400 years ago. My great-great-great-grandmother built the first house in Green Valley before the university even existed." More students began to whisper. A few pulled out their devices and started checking their own family histories. "My family has a farm deed from 500 years ago," said Olivia Ross from the back row. "My ancestor fought in the Western Territory Wars 450 years ago," added Noah Miller. Professor Wright suddenly seemed to recover. He switched off the hologram with a quick gesture. "That's enough for today," he said sharply. "Please review Chapter 7 before next class." Dismissed. Students looked at each other in confusion. The class was scheduled for another 40 minutes. No one moved. I said dismissed. Professor Wright's voice was louder now, almost angry. Slowly, students gathered their things and filed out of the room. Samantha stayed in her seat, watching as the professor quickly collected his materials, his hands shaking slightly. "Professor Wright, I'm sorry if my question caused a problem," she said as the room emptied. He looked at her, and Samantha was surprised to see fear in his eyes. "Miss Collins, some questions are better left unasked," he said quietly. "For your own safety, I suggest you forget about this matter." "My own safety?" Samantha repeated, feeling a chill despite the warm classroom. "What do you mean?" Professor Wright glanced toward the door to make sure they were alone. "Nothing, I misspoke. Please go to your next class." Samantha slowly packed her bag, watching. As the professor hurried out of the room without another word, something was very wrong. The simple question about her family history had clearly disturbed him deeply throughout her next two classes. Samantha couldn't focus. Her mind kept returning to the look on Professor Wright's face. She checked her family records again on her tablet. There was no mistake. Her family had lived on New Terra for much longer than 300 years, which should be impossible if the official history was correct. After her last class, Samantha walked across the campus green toward her apartment. The twin moons were just becoming visible in the late afternoon sky. Her device buzzed with a message notification. The sender was listed as unknown, and the message was encrypted. Samantha used her personal key to open it. Meet me at the old library at 9 p.m. What you've discovered isn't supposed to be known. Tell no one. Right, Samantha read the message 3 times. Her heart beat faster. The old library was on the edge of campus, a stone building that housed physical books and documents from before everything went digital. It was rarely used now except by specialty researchers. Should she go? It felt dangerous, but her curiosity was stronger than her fear. If the history they had all been taught was wrong, what was the truth? Where did humans really come from if Earth was destroyed 300 years ago? As the twin moons rose higher, Samantha made her decision. She would meet Professor Wright and find out what he knew. She changed into darker clothes and told her roommate she was going to the study center for a few hours. The night air was cool as Samantha walked toward the old library. The building was dark except for a single light in a back window. She approached the side door as instructed in a second message she had received. It was unlocked. Professor Wright? She called softly as she entered. In the back room, Miss Collins, came the reply. And please close the door behind you. Samantha stepped inside and shut the door. She didn't know it yet, but this simple action following her curiosity and asking a question no one else had thought to ask was about to change everything, not just for her, but for all of humanity on New Terra. The old library smelled of dust and paper. Samantha walked carefully through the dark room, following the thin beam of light from her small pocket flashlight. Tall shelves filled with actual books lined the walls. Most students at North American University had never seen a real paper book before. This way. Professor Wright called softly from somewhere ahead. Samantha found him in a small room at the back of the library. Professor Wright looked different outside the classroom. His neat clothes were replaced by a worn jacket, and his eyes darted nervously to the windows every few seconds. Thank you for coming, he said. I wasn't sure if you would. Your message scared me, Samantha admitted, but I need to know the truth. Why did my question upset you so much? Professor Wright ran a hand through his gray hair. Because you found a hole in the story, a hole that shouldn't exist. He moved to a bookshelf and pulled on a specific book. To Samantha's surprise, the entire shelf slid to the side, revealing a hidden door. Follow me, he said. And please, turn off your device completely. Remove the battery if you can. Samantha did as he asked, then followed him through the door. They went down a narrow staircase into a small room filled with old machines and boxes of what looked like more books and papers. What is this place? She asked. A forbidden archive, Professor Wright answered. He turned on more lights, revealing walls covered with maps and pictures, one of the few places where real history is kept. He pulled out a chair for her, then sat across from her at a small table. Miss Collins, everything I've taught in my class about Earth's destruction is a lie. The official history is a fabrication. Samantha stared at him. A lie? But why? Earth wasn't destroyed by an asteroid, Professor Wright said. His voice was steady now, as if finally telling the truth gave him strength. It was quarantined after a devastating war with an alien coalition called the Concordat. Aliens? Samantha felt dizzy. Are you saying aliens are real? Very real. And humanity wasn't nearly wiped out, we were imprisoned. Professor Wright stood and walked to one of the maps on the wall. It showed a star system that wasn't their own. Our planet, New Terra, isn't a colony established by survivors. It's a reservation where humans have been contained for centuries. Our memories and history were altered to prevent another war. Samantha tried to process what she was hearing. It seemed impossible, yet it would explain the problem with the timeline. But my family history is probably real, Professor Wright finished for her. Humans have been on this planet for over 700 years, not 300. The fake asteroid story was created to make us forget our true origins and the war we lost. He opened a drawer and pulled out old photographs. They showed strange ships in the sky and creatures that were clearly not human standing next to people in old-style clothes. I'm part of a secret organization called Remembrance, he explained. We're dedicated to preserving true human history. There are others like me across the planet. We keep the truth alive, hoping someday we can share it widely. Why tell me? Samantha asked. Because you asked the question. You saw the problem that most people are programmed to ignore. That means your mind is more resistant to the memory alterations they've used on the general population. Before Samantha could ask who they were, a loud bang came from upstairs. Both of them froze. They found us, Professor Wright whispered. He moved quickly to another drawer and pulled out a small crystal, blue and glowing faintly. This contains more information. Historical records, proof of what I'm telling you. He pressed it into her hand. Find Daniel Parker in Capital City. He owns Parker Shipping near the River District. Show him this crystal and tell him I sent you. He'll help you understand more. But what about you? Samantha asked, clutching the crystal. I'll create a distraction. There's a back exit through that door. He pointed to a small door half hidden behind a shelf. It leads to a tunnel that comes out near the science building. Go straight to the transit station and take the first train to Capital City. Heavy footsteps sounded on the stairs. Who are they? Samantha asked, moving toward the exit. Government agents. The Oversight Division. They monitor anyone who questions official history. Professor Wright quickly gathered some papers and shoved them into a metal bin. Go now, Samantha hesitated. I can't just leave you. You must. The truth is more important than either of us. He lit the papers in the bin, creating smoke. I'll be fine. They've taken me in for questioning before. The footsteps were closer now. Professor Wright pushed Samantha toward the exit door. Remember, Daniel Parker in Capital City, trust no one else. And whatever you do, keep that crystal safe. Samantha slipped through the door as she heard voices entering the hidden room. She ran down a dark, narrow tunnel, using her flashlight to guide her way. Her mind raced with questions, aliens, imprisonment, false histories. It seemed impossible, yet the fear in Professor Wright's eyes had been very real. After what felt like hours but was probably only minutes, Samantha reached the end of the tunnel. A small ladder led up to a hatch. She climbed carefully and pushed it open, finding herself behind a large bush near the science building, just as Professor Wright had said. The campus seemed normal. Students walked between buildings, laughing and talking. None of them knew their entire history might be a lie. Samantha closed the hatch and made sure it was hidden by the bush. Then she walked quickly but calmly toward the transit station. She kept the crystal in her pocket, her hand wrapped tightly around it. The last train to Capital City was leaving in 20 minutes. Samantha bought a ticket with her student card, hoping it wouldn't alert anyone tracking her. As she waited on the platform, she noticed two people in plain gray suits scanning the crowd. They moved with purpose, their eyes cold and searching, remembering Professor Wright's warning. Samantha pulled her hood up and turned away. When the train arrived, she boarded quickly and found a seat in the back of the last car. As the train pulled away from the station, she saw the gray-suited people questioning a transit worker who pointed at the departing train. Samantha sank lower in her seat. The train accelerated, leaving the university behind. She was now a fugitive, carrying a secret that could change everything people believed about their world. And somewhere in Capital City, a man named Daniel Parker might have more answers. The crystal felt warm in her pocket as the train sped through the night toward an uncertain future. The train arrived in Capital City just before dawn. Samantha had not slept during the 6-hour journey. Every time the train stopped at a station, she watched for people in gray suits. Twice she had to hide in the bathroom when security officers walked through the cars. Capital City was much bigger than the university town. Tall buildings reached toward the sky, and even at this early hour, people hurried along the streets. Samantha had visited once on a school trip years ago, but she had never been alone here. She found a small cafe that was just opening and ordered a hot drink. While waiting, she used the cafe's public screen to search for Parker Shipping. The business was located in the River District, about 30 minutes away by walking. Samantha finished her drink and set out, keeping her head down and staying in crowds when possible. The crystal in her pocket felt heavier than it should. What information did it contain that was worth Professor Wright risking his safety? The River District was older than the rest of the city. The buildings were made of stone and brick instead of the shiny metal and glass of downtown. The smell of water and fish filled the air as Samantha walked along the waterfront. Looking for Parker Shipping, she found it in a red brick building with a faded sign. It looked like a normal shipping office with boats docked nearby. Samantha took a deep breath and pushed open the door. A bell jingled as she entered. The front room was small with a counter and maps on the walls. A woman with short gray hair looked up from a computer. "Can I help you?" she asked. Samantha hesitated. Professor Wright had told her to find Daniel Parker, not anyone else. "I'm looking for Daniel Parker," she said. "Is he available?" The woman studied Samantha carefully. "Who's asking?" "My name is Samantha Collins. Professor Wright sent me." At the mention of Wright, the woman's expression changed. She pressed a button under the counter and a door to the back opened. "Follow me," she said. No longer friendly, but not exactly unfriendly either. Samantha followed her through the door and down a hallway to another door. The woman knocked 3 times, paused, then knocked twice more. "Come in," a male voice called. The woman opened the door, nodded to Samantha to enter, then closed it behind her without coming in herself. The office was larger than Samantha expected. A man sat behind a desk covered with papers and small devices. He was tall with broad shoulders and dark skin. His hair was cut very short and a scar ran across his right cheek. "I'm Daniel Parker," he said. "You mentioned Professor Wright?" Samantha stepped forward. "Yes, he told me to find you. He gave me this." She pulled out the crystal and placed it on the desk. Daniel Parker's eyes widened. He picked up the crystal and examined it. "Where is Alan now?" "I don't know. Some people came to the library where we were meeting. He told me to run while he distracted them." Daniel put the crystal in a small device on his desk. A holographic display appeared above it, showing files and images. He looked through them quickly, his face growing more serious. "Alan sent all his research," he said quietly. "He must be in big trouble." He looked at Samantha. "Tell me exactly what happened from the beginning." Samantha told him about her question in class, Professor Wright's reaction, and everything that happened in the library. Daniel listened without interrupting. "So you know the basic truth now," he said when she finished. "Earth wasn't destroyed. Humanity wasn't nearly wiped out. We're being kept here." "But why?" Samantha asked. "And by whom?" Professor Wright mentioned aliens and something called the Concordat. Daniel stood up and walked to a wall. He pressed his hand against it, and the wall slid open to reveal a hidden room. "Come with me. There are some people you should meet." The hidden room was much larger than the office. Several people worked at stations with screens and equipment Samantha didn't recognize. They all looked up when Daniel entered with her. "Everyone, this is Samantha Collins," Daniel announced. "The student Alan Wright told us about, the one who asked the question." A woman with long black hair approached. "I'm Olivia Martinez," she said. "I handle communications." A tall man with light brown skin nodded to her. "Kyle Washington, I study genetics." An older man with glasses stepped forward. "Gregory Chun, I used to work for the government until I learned the truth." Daniel put his hand on Samantha's shoulder. "This is our network. There are more of us across the planet. We've been working for decades to uncover the full truth and find a way to contact Earth." Contact Earth? Samantha repeated. So Earth really does still exist? It does, Daniel confirmed. The quarantine was supposed to be temporary, but it's lasted for over 700 years. The Concordat, the alien coalition that defeated humanity in the war fractured decades ago. Some factions want to reconnect with humanity, others want to maintain our isolation forever. Olivia led Samantha to her station. Look at this, she said, pointing to a screen showing strange symbols. I intercept and decode alien communications. They don't know we can understand some of their language now. And here, Kyle added, showing her another screen with what looked like DNA patterns. I study human DNA for evidence of tampering. They've been subtly changing us, making us more docile, less likely to question. Gregory brought up a map on a large central display. This is our solar system, he explained. And these are the monitoring stations in orbit. They watch us, make sure we don't develop space travel or advanced weapons. Samantha felt overwhelmed. How do you know all this? How can you be sure? Daniel walked to the back of the room where a large machine hummed quietly. Because of this, he said, we built a receiver that can detect signals from outside our solar system. And 16 years ago, we caught our first message from Earth. He pressed some buttons and a voice filled the room. The message was partly broken up by static, but Samantha could hear the words clearly. To human settlements. If you receive this, Earth has been rebuilt. Searching for you. Do not lose hope. That was the first message, Daniel said. There have been more since then. Earth has been trying to find all the human reservations scattered across space. How many are there? Samantha asked. According to the messages, 27 planets were used to isolate human populations. Each was told they were the only survivors. Earth has found 22 so far, Olivia came over with excitement in her eyes. 3 days ago, we received a new message. It's the reason Alan probably decided to risk telling you the truth now. She nodded to Daniel. Daniel pressed more buttons on the receiver. A clearer voice came through. New Terra settlement, if you can hear us, prepare your people. The veil lifts in 30 days. Contact is coming, you are not forgotten. The veil, Gregory explained, is what they call the quarantine barrier around our solar system. If this message is correct, someone is coming to end our isolation, to reconnect us with Earth and the rest of humanity. Samantha sat down, trying to process everything. What do we do now? Daniel looked at the team, then back at Samantha. Now we prepare. The government will fight this. They'll try to maintain control. We need to spread the truth before contact happens, or there could be panic and violence. And, Olivia added gently, we need to find out what happened to Professor Wright. If they've taken him, we might be able to help. Daniel nodded. You asked the question that started this, Samantha. Now you have a choice. You can go back to your normal life and pretend none of this happened, or you can stay with us and help reveal the truth to everyone on New Terra. Samantha thought about her comfortable life at the university, her friends, her plans for the future. Then she thought about Professor Wright risking everything to show her the truth. I'll stay, she said. I want to help. Daniel smiled. Good. Because I think you're going to be important in what comes next. 3 days passed quickly as Samantha learned about the underground network. Daniel's shipping business was just a cover. The real work happened in the hidden rooms where his team gathered information and planned how to tell people the truth. Samantha slept on a small bed in a back room. She missed her comfortable apartment at the university, but she knew she couldn't go back. Not yet, maybe not ever. On the morning of the 4th day, Olivia burst into the main room with a worried look on her face. They've arrested Professor Wright, she said. It's all over the news feeds. Everyone gathered around the main screen. A news announcer with perfect hair and a serious face was speaking. Professor Alan Wright of North American University has been detained for spreading dangerous misinformation. Government officials say Wright is part of a radical group attempting to undermine planetary security with false claims about Earth's survival. The screen showed Professor Wright being led into a government building. His hands were bound and his face was bruised. "They hurt him," Samantha whispered. "This is just the beginning," Daniel said grimly. "They're getting nervous about the end of the quarantine. They'll try to silence anyone who knows the truth." The announcer continued. "Citizens are reminded that spreading rumors about alien contact or questioning established histories against public safety law. 42. Anyone with information about others involved in this illegal activity should contact authorities immediately." Daniel turned off the screen. "They're looking for us. And for you, Samantha. Your name hasn't been mentioned yet, but they'll connect you to right soon. What do we do now?" Samantha asked. Gregory stepped forward. "We have to move faster with our plan. If the veil is really going to lift in less than 4 weeks, we need to start spreading the truth now." "But how?" Kyle asked. "We can't just announce it." "No one would believe us, and we'd be arrested immediately." Olivia smiled for the first time that day. "I have an idea. The Global Education Network, I can hack into it. We can release small pieces of evidence to students everywhere." Daniel nodded slowly. "That could work. Students are more likely to question things, to talk to each other. And I can help," Samantha said. "I'm a student. I know how to reach other students." "I could make messages that they would pay attention to." The team spent the next 2 days preparing. Olivia worked on breaking into the education network. Kyle and Gregory selected evidence that would be most convincing: genetic data, historical records, intercepted alien communications. Daniel coordinated everything, making sure they weren't detected. Samantha created simple messages that asked the same questions she had asked in class. If Earth was destroyed 300 years ago, how do we have family histories that go back much further? She added links to evidence that students could check for themselves. On the 7th day since Samantha had arrived in Capital City, they were ready. Olivia sat at her computer, fingers moving quickly over the keys. "Once I start this, there's no going back," she warned. "The government will trace it eventually." "Do it," Daniel said. Everyone nodded in agreement. Olivia pressed a final key. "It's done. The messages are going out to every student device on the planet." For a few hours, nothing seemed to happen. Then reports started coming in through their monitoring systems. Students were talking about the messages. Some dismissed them, but many were checking their own family histories and finding the same problem Samantha had discovered. By the next morning, the government responded. An official statement called the messages a dangerous prank and warned students not to share them. But it was too late. The questions were spreading. Samantha recorded a video message, keeping her face hidden but identifying herself as the student who first asked the question that started everything. She explained what she had learned about the quarantine and the coming contact with Earth. The team sent this video through the student networks. 3 more days passed. The government's response grew stronger. Universities were closed for security reasons. More people were arrested for spreading misinformation. Soldiers appeared on city streets. Then Kyle made a disturbing discovery in his genetic research. "They've been changing us more than we thought," he told the team, showing them his findings. "There are markers in our DNA that weren't there in the oldest samples we have. Markers that make people less likely to question authority, more likely to accept whatever they're told. That's why most people never notice the problems with our history," Gregory said. "They're programmed not to see them." "But some of us are resistant," Samantha realized. "That's why I could ask the question. That's why all of you could see the truth." "Exactly," Kyle said. "And there are more like us out there. The genetic changes aren't perfect." The situation outside grew more tense. The government declared a state of emergency. Travel between cities was restricted. News feeds showed only official information. But through their network, Daniel's team knew that people everywhere were talking about the messages, questioning the official history. 2 weeks after Samantha had first met Daniel, they received news that changed everything. A contact in the government security force sent them a secret message. The authorities were planning to arrest everyone connected to Parker Shipping the next day. "We need to move," Daniel decided. "The backup location is ready." That night, they packed essential equipment and data. As they prepared to leave through a secret tunnel under the building, Olivia's communication system beeped with an incoming message. "It's from orbit," she said in surprise. "Something just entered our solar system." They gathered around her screen. A signal was coming from beyond the outer planets, moving inward fast. It wasn't using any communication protocol known on New Terra. "They're early," Daniel said. "The Earth ships are coming sooner than they said." As if responding to his words, all communication devices in the room suddenly activated at once. Every screen, even those that were turned off, lit up with the same message. "People of New Terra, this is Captain Elizabeth Bennett of the Earth Alliance Vessel Restoration. The quarantine of your world ends today. We come in peace. We come to reunite our people." The message repeated in all languages used on New Terra. Daniel looked at his team, then at Samantha. "This changes everything. The government can't hide the truth anymore." Outside, they heard people coming out of their homes and businesses. From the small window, Samantha could see crowds gathering in the streets, looking up at the sky where strange lights were appearing. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now," Daniel said, "we go outside and help people understand what's happening. This is what we've been preparing for." As they moved toward the door, government announcements blared from public speakers. "Citizens, remain calm and stay in your homes. The unidentified aerial phenomena are being investigated. There is no cause for alarm," but no one was listening anymore. The quarantine was ending. The truth was arriving from the stars. And Samantha, who had started it all with a simple question in class, was about to see humanity reunited with its true home. The morning sky over Capital City filled with lights that were not stars. 7 large ships hovered high above, visible to everyone. They did not hide. They did not try to look like anything else. They were clearly not from New Terra. People filled the streets despite government orders to stay inside. Some were afraid, but most were curious. Samantha, Daniel, and the team joined the crowds moving toward Central Park, the largest open space in the city. "The government forces are pulling back," Gregory said, checking his small communication device. "They don't know what to do." Daniel nodded. "They've been following orders from the Concordat monitors for centuries. Now those monitors are silent." Large screens around the city suddenly turned on. The face of a woman appeared. She had dark skin and short hair with a few gray streaks. She wore a blue uniform with a patch showing Earth, the real Earth, on her shoulder. "People of New Terra," she said. Her voice was calm and kind. "I am Captain Elizabeth Bennett of the Earth Alliance Vessel Restoration. We come as friends, as family long separated. Your world has been isolated for over 700 years. That isolation ends today." The crowd around Samantha grew quiet, listening. "We know this is shocking," Captain Bennett continued. "You have been told that Earth was destroyed, that you were the only human survivors. This was not true. Earth suffered greatly in the war with the Concordat, but we survived and rebuilt. For generations, we have been searching for all the human populations that were scattered and isolated across space." Images appeared on the screens showing a beautiful blue and green planet. It looked similar to the images of old Earth that Samantha had seen in class, but with different cities, different technology. "Your government officials have known the truth," Captain Bennett said. "They were originally placed in power by the Concordat in order to keep you isolated, to hide your true history. Some may have believed they were protecting you. Others simply wanted to maintain their control." Government vehicles appeared at the edges of the crowd. Soldiers and officials looked uncertain, watching the screens like everyone else. "We will be landing in Central Park in 1 hour," the captain announced. "We come unarmed. We come to reconnect, not to conquer. You are free people, and the choice to rejoin the wider human family will be yours." The screens went dark. The crowd began talking excitedly, some people laughing, some crying, most simply looking stunned. Samantha turned to Daniel. "We should go to Central Park now, before it gets too crowded." Daniel agreed. The team moved through the streets, joining the flow of people heading to the park. More were coming from all directions. Samantha had never seen so many people in one place. They found a good spot near the center of the park. From there, they could see one of the ships descending slowly. It was smooth and silver, much more elegant than the bulky ship's New Terra. Used for local space travel. As they waited, Olivia received a message on her device. "They've released Professor Wright and the others who were arrested," she told the group. "The government is falling apart. Some officials are running away. Others are claiming they never knew the truth." Samantha felt relief knowing her professor was safe. She watched as the ship came lower, finally settling gently on the open grass. It was smaller than it had appeared in the sky, about the size of a large building. A door opened in the side of the ship. A ramp extended to the ground. Captain Bennett appeared first, followed by several other people in similar uniforms. They walked down the ramp and stood waiting. No one in the crowd moved at first. Then Daniel stepped forward. "We should go," he said to his team. "We've been preparing for this longer than anyone." Samantha walked with Daniel and the others toward the ship's crew. As they got closer, she noticed something strange about Captain Bennett and her team. They looked normal, like people from New Terra. She had expected aliens, or at least humans who looked very different after 700 years of separation. Captain Bennett smiled as they approached. "You must be from the Resistance Network," she said. "Our sensors detected your communications," Daniel nodded. "I'm Daniel Parker, this is my team, and this is Samantha Collins." She's the one who started everything by asking a question her teachers couldn't answer. The captain looked at Samantha with interest. "Sometimes the greatest changes begin with the simplest questions." She held out her hand. "It's an honor to meet you, Samantha." Samantha shook her hand, feeling strange to be touching someone from Earth. "Real Earth? How many of you are there?" Daniel asked. "On Earth, I mean." "About 12 billion now," Captain Bennett answered. "And another 8 billion spread across colonies on other worlds. Worlds we chose to settle, not where we were imprisoned." More people from the crowd were approaching now, cautiously but curiously. "What happens next?" Samantha asked. "That will be up to your people," the captain said. "We offer connection, trade, knowledge exchange, but we won't force anything. You've been isolated for centuries. Rejoining the wider human community will take time." Over the next few hours, more ships landed in parks and open spaces around the planet. Teams from Earth met with local people everywhere. The news networks, now free from government control, broadcast everything. 1 week later, Samantha stood with Professor Wright on a hill overlooking Capital City. He had recovered from his time in prison and was eager to learn everything about Earth. "I never thought I would live to see this day," he said. "I thought we might find the truth, but I never imagined Earth would find us. What will you do now?" Samantha asked. He smiled. "Captain Bennett has asked me to help establish a new university. A place where the real history of humanity will be taught, where students from New Terra can learn about Earth and students from Earth can learn about U.S. And she wants you to be part of it, Samantha," he added. "As a student ambassador, you'll be one of the first from New Terra to visit Earth." Samantha looked up at the evening sky. The Earth ships were still visible, glittering like new stars. "I still can't believe all this started because I asked one question in class." "That's how knowledge works," Professor Wright said. "One question leads to another and another until finally we find the truth." 3 months later, Samantha stood on the deck of the Restoration as it prepared to leave. New Terra, 100 students and teachers had been selected for the first visit to Earth. Through the large windows, she could see her planet growing. Smaller. Daniel and his team were staying behind to help with the transition. The old government was gone, replaced by a temporary council that included both New Terra, citizens and advisors from Earth. It would take years for everyone to adjust to the truth, to rebuild their understanding of who they were and where they came from. Captain Bennett joined Samantha at the window. "Nervous?" she asked. "Yes," Samantha admitted. "But excited too. I've been reading everything I can about Earth." "There's a lot to see," the captain said. and a lot of people eager to meet you. Your story has spread widely, the student who broke through centuries of deception with one simple question. Samantha smiled. I just hope other students learn from this. To always ask questions, especially when something doesn't make sense. That's the most human quality there is, Captain. Bennett said. Curiosity? It's what brought us to the stars in the first place. It's what helped us survive the war and the years after. And now it's what's bringing us back together. The ship accelerated, heading toward a bright point of light in the distance, Earth, the original home of humanity, waiting to welcome back its long-lost children. Samantha thought about her classroom, where all of this began. One question had changed everything. She wondered what other questions were waiting to be asked, what other truths were waiting to be found. The journey home had begun.